temperature changes.
I like that hat.
I know, I like your face.
Oh.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel.
Not our YouTube show, our YouTube channel.
If you're new here, we're Kara and Caleb.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Caleb.
And today we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about a practice that we have implemented relatively new, I guess over the last
2 years.
2
Probably.
years.
Yeah.
A practice that we have implemented into our personal lives and also into our lives as a couple, into our relationship. And I will say that this practice, it has had profound impacts on me personally, especially in seasons of transition and seasons of growth or change.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about this idea of pulling cards. And if you're unfamiliar with it, it can sound a little woo-woo. You're like, I'm going to pull cards. But the idea of pulling cards is really that there's all these beautiful, incredible decks that have been created by very intentional people. And decks kind of serve as this tool to guide you deeper into your inner practice. So for me individually, I use a deck every single morning. I actually use 3 usually. And I pull and I allow that to kind of guide my meditation, to guide my work that morning, to guide my time with myself that morning. We've used the decks together, like in our own collective journey. But it really is a tool, right? Yeah. It's a tool to create a little more space for you to dive into something that maybe normally in your day-to-day life you wouldn't think to dive into.
And also decks, when you open up a deck, they will usually have instructions on how you can best use this deck or best practices along with this deck. And I will say that I know that so many people, they know that like doing inner work is important. They know that meditating is important, sitting still, journaling. We know all of these things are important. But if you're like me, I have sat down countless times, especially when it comes to journaling. And I'm like, what do I journal about? Like, how do I get started? Yeah. And decks are an amazing opportunity for you just to pull a card, read, and then also interpret the card. How does the card speak to you? Which we're going to also pull a card today.
We'll exemplify the practice.
And also, they're just great touch points and starting points of where you can begin to journal.
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel like too, for me, I am someone who naturally, I'm not bent towards routine. I kind of shy away from it and I don't like it. And I'm 7 on the Enneagram and I'm like, well, I want spontaneity. But what's been really powerful for me with decks is that I now have this place that I'm coming to in the morning. Like, oh, I get to pull a card.
It's a ritual.
And it's a ritual and it creates almost an excitement of like, what am I going to look at today? Like, what do I get to see and explore in my own life today? And for me, it's been a really powerful tool to encounter God. Yeah. Like it's a very beautiful tool to, again, because we're going inward, we're looking inward. It is this beautiful exploration of how can we connect with the divine. And I think sometimes, especially in my past life, like I would have been...
Your past life meaning...
Yeah, my past life like 5 years ago. Not a past life.
Past life.
But like 5 years ago, I think I would have been really scared of decks, being like, they're so woo-woo, they're psychic, they're voodoo, witchcraft. One thing about decks is that they are not psychic. They're not necessarily foretelling, but they are a partnership with God, right? Like they are a way that we can partner with the divine, with the universe to say like, with God, how can I meet the present moment today?
Yes. How
can I meet the present moment and actually go so far inward to explore that space?
That's why I love decks. Decks and pulling a card and getting very intentional, like you said, with this ritual, making it a sacred practice in my day.
Yeah.
It literally brings me into the present. It helps me connect to the divine within me. It helps me connect to my breath. It like you start your day off like grounded and present and working from that place instead of constantly in your head. Yeah. And that's just draining.
Totally. So let's start by talking about a couple of our favorite decks. I'm going to start because I want to share this one that I co-created with a friend. It's called the Embodied Deck. Maybe. There it is. So the idea with this deck, and I'll tell you kind of the intention behind it, is that as women, and men can use it too, but as women, we are so busy in our day-to-day lives that we are constantly running around and it's very uncommon to slow and just get back into the body, right? But that's where the wisdom resides, is inside of the body. And so sometimes it takes getting out of the mind and dropping back into the body to really notice our life. And so the embodiment deck is simple. It's 45 embodiment mantras and practices. So the idea is you can use the deck in so many different ways, but the idea is you look at the deck, you maybe span them out like this, and you choose one that you feel inclined to. And when you pull one, it's a simple embodiment practice for the day. So that one says breathe, and there's a little mantra around it. And it's a way to spend 5 minutes with yourself, getting back into your body, getting grounded. And a simple practice of 5 minutes a day is life-changing. We cognitively know that meditation and slowing down like that, it improves cellular health, brain health, immunity, all of these things. And yet we're so resistant to it. So again, a tool, just a tool to say, I'm going to pull.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I also want to say with these deck of cards, I had a little small role in just like designing the cards or making them so that we can print them or whatnot. But I've had to go through every individual card and read them extensively over and over and over again. And I will say that as I read through these cards, and as I was reading every single word slowly and intentionally to make sure that the sentence structure was done properly and we didn't misspell any words, I found myself at one point actually crying.
Yeah.
Right? I found myself like, oh my gosh, like this actually drops me into the present. It really connects with me. And I love this set of cards because we are so busy, as you said, and guys and girls, whoever, right? We have to learn how to practice being present. Being present is a muscle. Like coming back to the present moment where all the magic lives, all the health. I think that's the journey of healing, is learning how to reconnect to the present moment. When we reconnect to the present moment, we connect to the divine. And these cards are just an excellent practice at pulling a card, right? You pull a card and, it just says gratitude, right? This one says gratitude. Beautiful card. And what's beautiful about this is it's an amazing journal prompt. There's questions on here. It's an amazing place to journal, but also as you go about your day, when you go to the bathroom, when you have a lunch break, right? When you take a coffee break,
gratitude.
You can just pull this card out from wherever it is and just reread this and allow this card to be a tool to help you drop in to the present moment. And it also helps you learn how to intentionally think thoughts that you want to think that help design the life that you want.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't know. 75,000 thoughts in a day. Oftentimes our thoughts are running rampant and just running away from us. But this is a chance to actually think intentional thoughts that help you design the life that you want. This is the intentional life.
Yeah. And to really change your thinking or rewire your thinking around the body. Because that was a huge piece of my healing journey, was how do I reconnect to the body? And this is a way to come back and get back in.
So real quick, these two decks.
Oh, yeah. So we've got this one. This is Alana Fairchild. She actually has a lot of decks. This one I love. I could talk about it for 10 hours. But it's a Rumi Oracle deck. And if you are on a spiritual journey, if you are someone who needs encouragement, if you're someone who is really looking to be slow with your spiritual process, this deck is wild.
This deck is like a sacred dance with your heart in the card.
It's so profound and beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Highly recommend the Rumi Oracle deck.
Yep.
And then you also
the next one, this one's new for me, not new for a lot of people, the tarot. So the tarot is remarkable. Listen, I don't know enough to talk about this at length, but I'm just beginning my tarot practice. Again, growing up in evangelical Christianity, this was like so woo-woo and bad. But listen, this deck has been so powerful in helping me get into alignment internally, helping me get into alignment in my mind and my body and my spirit, and to really listen to God, to really listen to what God has to say about my life. So incredible tool. We could again talk about all of these decks at length, but for the sake of today's video, we're going to share with you one of the decks that has been wildly profound for both of us individually and collectively. We've done polls together and separately. It is called the Archetypes deck
by Kim. I think it's Krans.
Kim Krans.
Krans. Yep. I'll have all these decks linked in the description of this video as well.
It's the Wild Unknown Archetype Deck.
Oh,
the Wild Unknown.
Honestly, this deck It was gifted to us.
Yeah, Mel gifted it to us.
It was originally gifted to us, and I remember the first time I ever pulled from this deck, it was with our friends Mel, and I was in such a crabby mood. It was when we were living in Los Angeles, so they were at the table getting ready to pull cards, and I'm just sitting on the couch like, I want to go home and like drink. I'm done with this.
And we weren't drinking there, and we were so crabby.
And I remember like going finally to the table, and Mel pulled a card, and I just like,
I think we did 3 with her.
Yeah, and I started crying, and it was a release. It was 100% the release that I needed.
Yeah.
And it was just, so I had a very beautiful encounter with these decks, and they're cool.
They're very
Circle.
cool.
They're beautiful. The images. This deck is called the Orphan. The Orphan. It's so beautiful, and what's beautiful about it is the book. The book comes with like little descriptions for each card, right?
Which we're gonna get into.
Which we'll get into.
But with this deck, Kim Krans gives you a bunch of different ways to use the deck, right? Yeah. So there is the 1 card pull, which she says is her favorite, and essentially it's this idea of allowing yourself to go on a journey with 1 card. So that's kind of my consistent practice, is pulling 1 card. There's also a 3 card pull, a 4 card pull. We did a 5 card pull, and we've done it with a handful of friends. That one's called the Heroine's Journey. And that one is really powerful when you're in like a season of life that's transitioning. Because again, it's about the journey of that.
It's my favorite pull. Has not been one person or experience of like pulling those cards with that method where people like just haven't like lost it.
Yeah. And if you're familiar with something like personality assessments or anything like that, in the same way that like a personality assessment, you might have a number, like on the Enneagram, for example, but it's so complex and layered, and you can keep learning and keep diving in. Decks are the same way. There's so many layers to them that I feel like the more we use this deck, the more we're like, wow, we can explore this way, or we can try this kind of pull. So you kind of can't really exhaust the way you use a deck, which is really beautiful.
And the thing about the deck is, like, as we pull, this deck has 3 different categories inside of it, and sometimes you have to put the categories together. Again, the book tells you all of the different ways you can pull or use these cards, use this deck. For the sake of today, we're just going to shuffle all of these cards, and then we're going to pick a card.
This deck has 4.
4, okay. Yeah. But the thing is that I think this is universal around pulling cards.
Yeah.
You don't pick the card picks you, right? It is an act of faith. It is a moment where I center myself, I get present, I am connecting with God, and this is an opportunity. It's almost like I'm reading scripture.
Yeah.
Like if I was to read scripture back in the day, like this is the majority of the ways that I am encountering love. I'm encountering love through this moment. God uses anything and everything for us to encounter love, right? And this is an opportunity. And so what we're going to do real quick is we're going to pull a card each.
Why do you put so many different piles?
I'm not. We're going to pull a card each, and we're going to like kind of set the intention, I think, for both of us. I'll speak for both of us, or you can speak for yourself too. Kara and I, since moving to Nashville, it's been a challenging move, but an expansive move. We are in new places, financially, from a business approach, and we are 100% expanding into a deeper experience of authenticity, of love. We are expanding into a fuller version of who we were created to be. There have been parts of us, I know I can say this for myself, there's been parts of me that have been asleep, parts of me that have been hiding. And moving to Nashville has been an intentional time of learning how to kiss those parts of me that I have been rejecting for so long. And so I know I'm going to be pulling a deck to help guide me, to mirror back to me, to help guide me into who I am evolving or where I am going in life.
Yeah, so when you come to the deck, it absolutely makes sense. So when you come to the deck, there's different ways you can place your hand on the deck and kind of create an intention of like, deck, what would you like to speak to me today? Life, what would you like to speak to me today? There's different ways to pull. You could literally just pull from the middle if you wanted to. Yeah. There's also this option to like spread them across the table. Pretend this is the table. And kind of just like close your eyes and imagine your fingers. And if you feel any sort of electricity in your finger or any sort of like, oh, that's it, you kind of reach for that one. You're really trusting, right?
I've also pulled decks or cards where it's like I pulled this one, but in the process of pulling this one flipped
one
over.
flips out, yeah.
And it's like, oh, you chose me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the deck, or that's the card I'm going for.
Yeah, but really trusting that, like, your body knows what it's doing. There's an energetic connection between you and all things, and so when your hand grabs something, it's meant for you. You want to go first?
Yeah, but I want it from the table.
Okay. So we spread them out.
We should probably use another camera.
And again, when you're going into this, you can say, like, what do I want to lean into today? Mm-hmm. Or almost asking a question, but not necessarily a black and white yes or no question. You have yours?
Yeah. And remember, this is just like an introductory to decks and pulling cards. There are people out there that are so much well versed than us.
Yeah, but we just want to share our experience with
absolutely.
how powerful it's been.
So I have mine. I haven't looked at it. Are you doing yours too?
No, I'm going to let you go.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I should do mine.
Just pull yours.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to reshuffle because I saw a couple. Hey.
That's loud.
And then we just spread them out. And then I'm going to go with that one. Okay. You ready?
Okay, so I'll flip first.
Okay.
So this is the card that I pulled. I've never pulled this card. It's called the Unseen. And so it has an eye on it. It's got beautiful colors. The eye kind of looks droopy a little bit.
It does. But it's like a greenish blue eye. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a greenish blue eye. There's a Roman numeral on top that kind of correlates to the passage in the book for the unseen. And what I love about this is that you'll see here with this book, they have the passage, but on the bottom, it gives you a chance to go deeper. Yeah. So it always recommends further reading or a poem or a video or something to help you go further. And good morning, sunshine.
We got bright.
Okay, so I'm going to read the unseen, and then I'm just going to kind of reflect on what it means for me. Being graced by the unseen is a gift. Treat it kindly. Allow yourself to be seen by external eyes.
No, eternal.
Eternal eyes. Eternal eyes. So the unseen is the spirit, the ancestor, the eternal. The unseen is just as it sounds. We cannot see it, yet it sees us, watching and waiting with wisdom, both kind and instructive. We feel this presence, sense it, intuit it, and then doubt its existence, though it rallies our attention time and time again. The energy of the unseen may come in many forms: a compelling dream, a sudden insight, a clear voice, a vision or message from a loved one who has passed to the other side. It is natural to fear these communications as they challenge our perception of what is real. When this card appears, your guides are near. The eternal is present. The doorway between worlds is ajar. Listen. The sound may seem as though they come from a distant land, but they call from your innermost chamber. Guidance comes in many forms. Don't expect it to be glittery or comfortable. The spirit world speaks the truth. Sometimes it soothes, and sometimes it burns. So it gives us three kind of different, what would you call it?
Ways to interact.
Yeah, ways to interact. And so when light, the unseen is clairvoyant guidance, whispers of wisdom. When dark, like when my heart is shut down, the unseen kind of turns into dark looming energy, unwillingness to forgive. And if I want to go deeper, I can read King Hamlet, The Three Fates, The Shining. Okay. So as I'm reading this, again, there's not a more important card that I probably could have pulled in this time because of, in the first time since leaving the NFL, I feel like, oh my gosh, there's vision in my heart, right? And I have a goal. I have like a new dream that's beginning to percolate inside of me. And there's always a question of like, how do I move forward? Yeah. Like, what does moving forward look like? And I'm trying to cling to certainty, right? Because it's vulnerable, trusting the wisdom, trusting the guide inside of me. It's vulnerable, trusting the unseen that is inevitably leading me forward in this season. Yeah. And the first thing that I read, the unseen is just as it sounds. We cannot see it, yet it sees us, watching and waiting with wisdom, both kind and instructive. That makes me see, like, as soon as I read that, yet it sees us, it hit me, whereas like my job is to show up and allow myself to be fully seen.
Yeah.
In this season of uncertainty, in this season of unfamiliar, in this season of full of unknowns, my job is to connect to my heart and show up and allow myself to be seen.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I'm not allowing myself to be seen, I'm in self-protection.
Yeah.
My ego has wrapped around me. Like I'm vulnerable, I'm afraid, so I shut down. And that's a closed heart. But when I show up, the unseen, I'm allowing the unseen to see me when I show up and allow myself to be fully seen.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I noticed for you too, and you can take it or leave it, but I noticed that there is this idea that like what you seek is seeking you.
Oh, yes.
Like what you desire and what you are dreaming about and what you are longing to create. It's the unseen is kind of this this outside force or energy that's like pulling you to it. And I read, I can't find it, but that some idea that there were guides, right?
Yeah.
That there were guides for you, and that you can trust that. And so I feel like that's a really beautiful, comforting piece of that you're not in this alone.
Yeah. And it also lastly reiterates to me like the way forward.
Yeah.
Since leaving the NFL, I've done nothing but learn how to tune in. And this has been the process. This has been the journey. And I've done it kicking and screaming. But the work has been learning how to trust the unseen.
Yeah.
Right? And she says it comes as a clear voice, a vision, or a message from a loved one. And it's in me.
Yeah.
The doorway between, listen, the sounds may seem like they come from a distant land, but they come from our innermost chambers. Yeah. And so the way forward is learning how to show up, allow myself to be seen, and stay connected to the parts of me, to stay connected to the present. Because the unseen, the whispers, the voice that's leading me forward, that's leading us all forward, is coming from the innermost chambers. Our work is to stay connected, to have an open heart, and to stay connected to it. I love that.
So beautiful.
Okay.
My turn. My card. Whoa.
I pulled this one. I love it.
The river.
Beautiful.
I'm kind of obsessed with the horse on there. There's like a horse in some kind of a diamond shape. It's really beautiful.
131.
No, 34. Oh, page. The river. You can only resist the river for so long. Eventually it will pull you toward change. So you may as well get in with style and grace. The river. The river is the stream, the flow, or the current. There is a reason so many rituals of change and rebirth take place in the river. It is forgiveness embodied in physical form. Without asking anything in return, the river washes away what is no longer necessary, smoothing over sharp edges and accepting all our mistakes and grievances. Once we step in, we are no longer in control. The river carries us farther down the stream of transformation than we planned to go. Its waters have a special gift for reflecting back to us a new and dreamlike vision. Once the tears have passed, we see ourselves as we haven't before, with a little more lightness, grace, and fluidity. Keep in mind the you that stands within the river is the real you, full of deep emotion and potential, nothing to hide, nothing to judge. May you drink in the sight of your true self. Jeez. May you drink in the sight of your true self. It's really beautiful. When light, the river is acceptance, grace, reflection, and forgiveness. When dark, torment of emotions, flooding, overwhelm. Go deeper, Barry Lopez's River Notes, or Ronnie Horn's Still Water. And then lastly, the river is emotion. When you are in its current, you will know by the bursting forth of tears, laughter, song, and despair. All the emotions flow in its current. Whew. Okay, so I immediately, what I notice is probably that statement, the river is emotion. I think in this season of transition and starting a new business and so much shifting in our lives, I have been so emotional. And I can feel that sense of like I'm stepping into the water and allowing it to take me. But I also feel such resistance to that. I was processing with you last night. I am so bent towards control. I'm so bent towards like, I got to figure it out. I got to make it happen. I want to like make the river of my life happen. And I think in reading this, what I notice is the assurance that when we step into the river, we no longer have control. We hand it over, we surrender it, we give it up. And I feel like right now I can almost like have this vision of myself like stepping in the river and then jumping out and trying to grab control again, and then jumping back in and then jumping out. And then the when light, acceptance, grace, reflection, forgiveness. And then when dark, the torment of emotions, the flooding, the overwhelm. I think that's this thing I've been working through is how do I let go of the overwhelm? How do I allow myself to really trust the process and to trust that the story arc of my life is going somewhere, and the in-between overwhelm and disappointments, they're all purposed and actually leading to the greater story arc that the river is flowing into. I kind of actually think about a visual river and how like there's so many in a river. There's like times when the current goes really fast and then you bump into rocks, and then there's times where it's like smooth sailing, and then there's times where you like drop off a few feet into a waterfall and there's like bumps along the way. But when we trust that the river is actually taking us, there is this like surrendering to the process that happens. And yeah,
it's so relevant to where you are.
Yeah, it really
I love
is.
that its waters have a special gift for reflecting back to us a new and dreamlike vision.
Yeah.
For you, it's like, I think since walking away from the work you were doing previously with events and, you know, private chefing and all of that stuff and anything that was like food related to this, you've thrusted yourself, you've thrown yourself into the river, and that's been a journey of learning how to let go of control and being more present. And for you, like, it's beautiful because it's going to reflect back when you allow yourself to rest in the river, the current of life that's already flowing, the sacred flow.
Yeah.
It will reflect back to you a new and dreamlike vision. So it's like we spend all of our time trying to figure out where we're supposed to be. We spend all of our time trying to figure out what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Right? But now when we just learn how to rest in the river, when we get into the river, and that can mean so many different things for any of us. But when you get into the river, like what you are doing or what you're called to do, purpose, or where you're going is going to be reflected back to us. We don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to rest in the river.
Even that visual of like standing on the shore and like trying to dream and want to create, there's no reflection. But if I'm just in the water and allowing myself to like float in the river, and then I look into the reflection of the water, it mirrors back to me what's actually there. So it does inspire the new sense of dreaming and awakening. And
and I like that the river's the stream, the flow, and the current.
Yeah.
Right? And I think
so funny. I said to a girlfriend yesterday, I was like, I feel like I'm on the edge of being in flow, but I'm not in flow.
And also it's like, this is all about being in the river.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, for me, it's just always like, I've spent my majority of my life pushing my river.
Yeah.
Like pushing the river. That's where frustration comes. That's where suffering happens.
Trying to swim upstream.
Swim upstream, or we're trying to push the river of our lives forward, but the river's already flowing.
Yeah.
Right? The way that we rest in the river is learning how to let go of control. When we let go of control, the river mirrors back to us.
Yeah.
Who we really are and purpose in life.
I love it. I love both of these.
Yeah. Well, again, this is one of our favorite decks, and we pull cards often from it, and we would just like to highly encourage you. Don't be afraid of cards. Seriously.
Don't be afraid. Try it.
Don't be afraid of cards.
Don't be afraid of cards.
Especially if you're a Christian. If you're afraid of cards.
So
there's so much magic here. There's so much love to be encountered with this deck of cards. And again, we just want to encourage you to lean into your own edges.
Yeah.
And whatever it looks like, just create the space in your life and give yourself the permission to allow God maybe to work in ways that you're not used to, or out of your normal ways. Just open up or show up with an open heart.
I'm really trusting that like the most beautiful journey that you'll ever go on is the one internal, the journey that you go on inside of your world. So I hope that's helpful.
Thanks for watching.